Welcome, everybody, to episode number 1 of the Pittsburgh Sports Cast. My name is Ryan.
And along with Chris.
And we are two students at Robert Morris University. I'm a rising junior.
And I'm a halfway junior. Finished my first semester as a junior. Be working on my second semester here. I am studying biomedical engineering.
Yeah, and I'm an actuarial science major. Brief disclaimer for you guys: we are both new to this whole podcasting thing. This is my first experience with podcasting, but Chris, you've had a bit of experience before, is that right?
Yeah, I used to record a podcast called the Grunt Truth Podcast. It was a religious-based podcast with a buddy of mine, and we did that for about a year, so I do have some experience podcasting.
All right, that's great. So we are recording this as of right now. It is Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. It is a little under 2 weeks since the NFL draft. And with that being the only Pittsburgh sports thing, or only sports thing going on right now, we thought we'd kick it off by discussing the draft. But we do want to let you know that there are 2 additional episodes that we plan to release this week. Chris, why don't you tell them about the next episode we're coming out with?
Yes, so episode 1, just to clarify, will be about the Pittsburgh Steelers draft. We're going to hit the AFC North teams as well. So we're going to talk about the Bengals, Browns, and Ravens to see how other teams teams in our division did, because that's who we compete against for playoffs. And then we're going to finish up the discussion today, hopefully talking about the probably most controversial topic in Pittsburgh sports right now, which is the Steelers' backup quarterback situation. There's just a lot of controversy around it, so we'll be touching upon that. The next 2 episodes will be about the NHL and Penguins, talking about, where we see the NHL trying to finish the season, if they can finish the season. And there's some Penguin talk, maybe look around the league there. And then episode 4 will be about the Pirates, spring training, what are the MLB's plans, expectations for the year, and the new regime, because the Pirates have a new GM and new manager. So those will be the 3 episodes you will hear this upcoming week.
Yes, indeed. And if you haven't checked out our trailer, please check it out. It is out on Spotify and our YouTube channel. You can find us on YouTube at Pittsburgh Sports Cast. Our podcast will be going up on there, as well as wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, which is right here. Hello to all of you, wherever you are, whatever platform you're viewing on. So with that being said, Chris, why don't we get started?
Okay, sounds good. I guess we'll just go pick by pick here and kind of give our thoughts, what we think, what we could maybe done better, and just kind of go from there. First round pick, as we all know, the Steelers did not have a first round pick. We spent it on Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think that was a first pick worth spent. I think Minkah played extremely well, especially the first half. When he first came, I remember he was playing excellent football. And even though he didn't have as many interceptions in the second half of the season, I felt like he was doing a lot schematically. Like, he was taking half the field away, whatever half he was on, because quarterbacks were afraid to throw in his direction. So even though he didn't necessarily have the interception numbers, I felt like he was doing a lot just to, like, shorten the field, which then puts, the other corner on the other side. So I think it would have been Nelson on the other side, and a lot of the schemes pressure off of him. And then a lot of the other safety, Edmonds, could kind of play up in the box, because he likes to play in the box a lot more than maybe free roam like Minkah does. So I think it allowed Terrell Edmonds, our other safety, to be more versatile and do more things in the scheme, while Minkah held back in the back end and played center field.
Yeah, definitely. I do agree with you there. Minkah was definitely worth our first round pick. Not only, as you said, his on-field accomplishments, his interception, taking away half the field, but I really feel like he was the real cornerstone that kind of brought this defense together. I often like to compare him to Ryan Shazier, even though he's a safety and Shazier is a linebacker. I do feel I see those similarities in terms of being able to build your defense and uh, structure it around a key player like Minkah Fitzpatrick, who is a true game changer.
Yeah, and I think even though you're right, he plays a different position as what Shazier once played. I think they're both have elite talent, and I think they both, at the time that they were drafted or brought in via trade from Minka's standpoint, that they both filled holes that we needed. For years, our secondary has been awful. The amount of big plays that this secondary has given up in the past couple of years has been absolutely phenomenal. I remember the one playoff series, I think in 2017 and 2018, when we played Jacksonville, giving up, 49 points to Blake
45, I
Bortles.
think. Yeah.
I mean, it's awful. I mean, it was awful. So I think he really solidified the back end. And because our front seven, I think, is fine. Because we got Bush
Definitely.
last year to solidify the inside linebacker. And our outside linebackers are phenomenal anyway. And then with Hayward and Tuitt and the boys up front, I think the defense is formidable. So like I said, not upset about the wasting the first round pick. There, I will throw this question at you. Do you think would you have liked us to trade into the first round to get anyone? Or are you content just with what we did?
I probably would have liked to maybe perhaps get a backup quarterback. We'll be talking about that later. But I don't think that the position we were in the draft allowed us to possibly go after a backup quarterback. Although you don't want to draft a backup quarterback in the first round. You don't want to waste your first round pick on a backup quarterback. So I honestly think in the end, Minkah was indeed worth it. And like I said, I count Minkah essentially as our 2020 first round pick for all intents and purposes, even though he got an extra season, which is a nice little bonus.
Yeah, agreed. So on to the second round with so our first pick in the 2020 draft, which would be in the second round, we got Chase Claypool out of Notre Dame. He's a wide receiver, 6'4", runs I think a 4.7 40, which is the second fastest for someone his size. The only one faster was Megatron, who we all know is a first ballot Hall of Famer, wide receiver, played for Detroit. I think this was a good pick. People said it was a reach. I can kind of, see where they're coming from. I'm not upset about it because of his size. We struggled so much in the red zone last year. Because we could get down there, but we couldn't convert into touchdowns. We'd only kick field goals. And against we're competing against the Ravens, and these other teams, Texans, Chiefs, right, the top echelon teams in the AFC, and they can all score. And when you get into the red zone, you have to be able to convert into touchdowns, convert those possessions into 6 points, right? And we got Eric Ebron in the offseason. He's big. He's like 6'5", 6'4". Chase Claypool, 6'4". You have Vance McDonald, if he can ever stay healthy. He's big at 6'5", 6'6". So I think you're going to give Ben tall weapons in the red zone to hit, I think is always a good thing, because quarterbacks love a big weapon in the red zone, especially down there where the field gets so much smaller. Also, he is a wide receiver, and the Steelers have had success drafting wide receivers and developing wide receivers. You think about Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Emmanuel Sanders, even before he left. So we do develop wide receivers really well. So I think the Steelers deserve the benefit of the doubt here with this pick. But those are my thoughts. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I largely agree with your points. Chase Claypool does indeed. I do see the potential in him. However, you have to wonder if they might be overhyping him a bit. back at Notre Dame, even they were calling him Megatron Jr. And comparing a college guy to a first ballot Hall of Famer, I mean, that's a lot to ask of a young kid like Chase Claypool. I do see where they're coming from, but I just hope that he's able to keep himself composed and just go one season at a time, and hopefully he'll have a healthy Ben Roethlisberger to throw him some touchdown passes. But overall, I do like the pick. Like you said, we've had success with developing wide receivers, even if we haven't picked them in the first round. Of course, Juju was a second-round pick. Um, and he has proven himself at a high-profile school like Notre Dame, so I like it.
Yeah. I do want to preface one thing for the listeners. We do understand that none of these players have played a down of NFL football, right? So we really won't know how these drafts work out until 2, 3, 4 years down the line when these players develop. But this is just our initial thoughts. I just thought I'd put that out there as a disclaimer that we
Oh,
understand none of
definitely.
these players have played an NFL down yet.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's almost impossible to separate your booms from your busts. What, 13 days after the draft?
Right. Exactly.
Mel Kiper even struggles with that.
Yeah. For our third round pick, we picked Alex Highsmith, who is an outside linebacker from the University of Charlotte. Now, this and really the next pick, I think, caused the most controversy within Steeler Nation because he's an outside linebacker, which, realistically, we're looking for Bud Dupree's replacement, right? We franchise tagged him. He has this year guaranteed with us, but realistically, we're going to sign TJ over Bud, and really this is Bud's replacement. I think people were upset, and like I said, in Steeler Nation because he's only from Charlotte. He is from a small school. And anytime you go with a small school athlete, their competition isn't as good. That's no knock on his talent or what he could bring to the Steelers right now. But that's just kind of what people are thinking. If you're from Charlotte, you haven't played the Alabamas. You haven't played, an SEC or ACC, Big 10, Big 12 schedule, right? You play, I think they're from Conference USA.
Yeah,
which,
Conference USA.
Which just isn't, their talent level isn't what it is in the Power 5 schools, right? So I think there's always going to be some doubt when you're being a small school athlete or player into your organization. So I think that's always going to have some hesitancy within Steeler Nation. I mean, I do think it was a bit of a reach. I don't know. I'm not like disappointed in the pick, but I'm not like jumping for joy. I think he has potential. He was Charlotte's all-time sack leader. So that is something good from an outside linebacker. Maybe can give some depth if Dupree or Watt get hurt. Third round, I think you could have gotten him in fourth. Because we did have a late third round pick. So I think you could have gotten him in the fourth. But, it's a Steelers liked it. Steelers have a good draft history. Like I said earlier, I'm not thrilled about it, but I'm not like ready to like break glass over it. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, for me, I do agree with you. The small school of Charlotte, no disrespect to Conference USA, but he has yet to prove himself against the big-time competition, similar to what he will be facing in the NFL. Less so, of course, than Chase Claypool from Notre Dame. But yes, I do agree. He did seem a bit of, I would call it a meh pick. He does. I mean, I'm sure. Yes, I do see potential in him, and it'll all come down to how he does in training camp, whenever that may be, as well as on the field once game time hits. But as for in terms of the profile of the pick, I do agree. They probably could have gone for someone else with this pick, because I'm not really digging the next pick either. Perhaps they could have used that pick on Highsmith if they wanted him. I would have been okay with that.
Yeah, so I think the next pick, was our fourth round pick. We had two fourth round picks, so this was the first one.
First one.
We took Anthony McFarland, running back out of
Yeah.
Maryland. Now, this was by far the most controversial pick within Steeler Nation. I'll kind of give the two schools of thought, and then I'll give my opinion, and then turn it over to you. People are upset, right? Because it's another running back in the mid-round. And we have four running backs, I think, on the roster. I think all either mid to late round, if not even drafted, an undrafted free agent. So a lot of people are screaming, why this again? Why again? Why again? Why again? Now, if you want to have a more positive mindset on it, he is going to be the fastest running back on the Steelers, one of the fastest players on the Steelers. The man's lightning quick. I watched some tape on him, and there was a play they were playing Ohio State, and we all know how good Ohio State is. And he completely outran Ohio State's defense. And that's a very impressive thing for anyone to outrun Ohio State at anything. It says something about your speed. So he is fast, and that speed, since he outran Ohio State, obviously translates to the football field, right? So I could see why people are upset about this, and I can see why people are happy about this. Now, where I personally stand, I think it's cool that we could use a change of pace back. Like I said, I think that's a good thing. I lean towards more the frustration aspects, because in the second round, we had the opportunity to draft one of the top running back prospects in J.K. Dobbins from Ohio State, who ended up going to Baltimore. We'll talk about that later. But we could have had him. And I'm not saying Claypool was a bad pick, because I think he has potential, and I think he can work well with Ben. But you had an opportunity, if you wanted to go running back, to get a top-tier running back when you drafted in the second round. But you chose not to. And then in the third round, I'm sure you could have grabbed somebody. But you didn't. And you wait again to the fourth round to get a guy who has questionable character, from what some reports coming out of Maryland and people who were around him. So he has some questionable character, questionable work ethic, and a high injury history, right? He, I think, missed a chunk of his senior season due to a high ankle sprain. He tore his ACL, I believe, his senior year of high school. So he has a high injury history, which is James Conner, who's our number one running back's issue, is that he can't stay healthy. When he's healthy, he's made a Pro Bowl. But he can't stay healthy on a consistent enough basis to continue to see the football field. And to me, you got Anthony McFarland, who may be questionable character-wise, fast, but again has a high injury history. So it's frustrating as a fan, because you see potential in him, but you see frustration of where if the Steelers wanted to address it early in the draft, they could have, but they didn't. And I think that is where a lot of Steelers fans' frustration is, and that's where my frustration is. Because this draft was so deep in wide receivers. Like, in theory, what they honestly could have done is they could have gone J.K. Dobbins second round if they wanted a running back, and they still could have gone a high-powered wide receiver in that third round instead of getting the Highsmith. And then probably Highsmith still would have been there for their fourth round pick. So they still could have gone Highsmith at the fourth round, a good wide receiver, and then gotten the top echelon running back in J.K. Dobbins. So I can see why fans are really questionable with this draft pick. And I would have to agree with them. I think they could have done some things differently if they really wanted a running back. Because now you just have a clouded running back. Because then you have James Conner, you have Benny Snell, you have Anthony McFarland, you have Jalen Samuel, and Kareth White. You know what I'm saying? You have 5 running backs now. Connor's in his 3rd year. Samuels is, I think, in his 3rd or 2nd. Snell's in his 2nd. You know, McFarland's going to be in his 1st. White's going to be in his 2nd. So, like, I'm just confused on what the plan was. You know?
Yeah, I do. I do like the Claypool pick in the 2nd round. Yes, I do agree. I mean, no denying the power and the brilliance of J.K. Dobbins. Unfortunate that the Ravens had to get him and he went to a team in the division. But I think Chase Claypool will be a really nice, a big target for big men. But I do agree with you on the 3rd round. I think that's where we could have taken a running back perhaps. And then Highsmith could have been our 4th round pick. I do see what they saw in McFarland. Like you said, a good change of pace running back, which is, I think, effective considering how effective Le'Veon Bell was using that, style with our offensive scheme. But yeah, I am concerned about his personality and injury history because that's really a combination of the past 2 seasons why this team failed. Obviously, everyone knows about Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell's drama 2 seasons ago. But then last year with the injuries upon injuries. And yes, it is nice to have a backup running back, but what if he goes down again? Because what if you play him and cut, say, a Benny Snell or Jalen Samuels, and then McFarland goes down, you know, and then you're left wishing you didn't cut one of those running backs who would be perfectly healthy and sign with another team and doing well. So that's my thoughts.
It's confusing as a fan, right? Because we're not, obviously, you and I are 2 college students. We don't have access to the Steelers draft room, right? We don't have access to the meetings that the scouts had with Coach Tomlin, and who's that defensive coordinator? Keith Butler and
Yes.
Randy Fichtner, who shouldn't even be here, but that's a different point. Where we don't have that privilege to be in those meetings and to understand their thought process. But from a fan's point of outside looking in, like I said earlier, when you have all these running backs, it just seems like you have a lot of running backs, but no elite running back. You know? Connor's made a Pro Bowl, so I guess you can kind of... He's good. Connor's good.
Yeah.
He's better than average.
Yeah, I wouldn't even put him on Le'Veon Bell's level.
No, Bell in his prime was better than Connor.
Oh, definitely. That's not even a point of debate.
Right. I don't know. Like I said, I like the Claypool pick. It's not necessarily me disliking the Claypool pick because I'm with you. I think he can help now, which is because the Steelers are trying to win now, right? We're trying to win the Super Bowl before Ben's time runs out, so he can help now, and I'm not mad at it. I'm mad that they picked a running back here. When if they wanted a running back, they should have gone for an elite one instead of another bang average one, where now we're stuck with 5 bang average running backs. Well, 4 and 1 that's better than average and Connor if he's healthy. That's where my frustration is.
Yeah, and you saw what happened to our rushing attack after Connor went down.
You saw
what happened to our entire team after the starters went down. I think we should have gone with a running back with less of an injury history because chances are Connor is probably, I wouldn't bet him on starting all 16 games.
Exactly.
So, and then who do you go to once he goes down?
I don't know. We got 4 people to choose from, apparently. One of them get the job done. Who knows?
But you got to cut one of them. You only got spot for 53.
I don't know. This pick was just confusing to me.
Yeah.
I think you confused a lot of Steeler Nation, but...
You mentioned confusion, though, and I wonder if the fact that the draft was being done remotely kind of made the Steelers personnel, the Steelers front office, made them confused because they weren't all in the same location in Vegas like they would have been.
Maybe it was a lack of communication
Yeah.
or something, but this is a very questionable pick for me. Moving on to the second, fourth round, which I think this is the steal of the draft. We got Kevin Dotson, offensive lineman from Louisiana. From what I read on him, they had a late second round, third round grade on him. He slipped to the fourth round. He slipped to us, which is huge. You know, he has that third, second round talent. We needed an offensive lineman. An offensive lineman are getting old. Villanueva didn't have the best season last season. So I think this is a guy who I think he can help a lot. I think he could use a little development, but I think he's great for a backup. If someone goes down or someone needs to be benched, I think this is really the steal of the draft.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think we just discussed with the McFarland pick, depth certainly is important with an injury-prone team like the Pittsburgh Steelers. You really need to have a adequate next man up so that when it's their turn, they're able to step up. And who knows, maybe he'll be a dark horse and end up being a starter. Who again, you don't know. I mean, we often say sometimes the great ones don't pan out, but for every Kyler Murray, there's Tom Brady. Pick 199, won 6 rings.
Exactly. We had no fifth round pick, so we did not do anything. We did not trade into the fifth round, so we just had no fifth round pick. With the sixth round pick, we picked Antoine Brooks, who was a safety from Maryland. Now, I got some thoughts on this pick because he is a great special teams player. He's a special teams juggernaut. And any time you can get a special teams juggernaut, especially in the late 5th, 6th, 7th round, like, take it, man. You know, special teams are huge in the NFL. They can swing games like no other, right? So if you can get a special teamer, like, you know, I'm all for it. My only issue or concern is that he's from Maryland. Antoine Brooks is also from Maryland. Coach Tomlin's son plays football at Maryland. You know, Maryland, no offense to people who play football in Maryland, Maryland's not the best school for football. Maryland's a much more basketball school than a much better basketball school than football school, right?
Yep. ACC blue blood, even though they're not in the ACC anymore.
Right. So, I mean, I'm just a little confused on why we keep picking people from Maryland, which isn't the best school to begin with. But at the end of the day, like, I'm not mad at the pick. I mean, he's a safety. We can always use backup safeties. Like I said, I read he's a special teams juggernaut. And if he can, like, and he has a spot on this roster. If he can come in and compete and play special teams at a high level, he has a spot on this roster, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then I do agree. It's always nice to take a special teams juggernaut. And, you know, there's not much you can say about late round picks. He's safety depth, and we could always use depth even on our great defense.
Agreed. And then with our last pick in the 7th round, we picked Carlos Davis, defensive tackle from Nebraska. And again, late round, we lost Hargrave to, I forget what team. I apologize. So this is, you know, some depth for your defensive line. Whether he makes a team or not, 7th round pick, you know, you can take a shot on him. Why not? Not really upset. It addressed a need. Not mad at it.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder if we possibly could have taken a punter.
Because dude, we need a punter. We do.
Because at this point, our current punter, there's not many people worse than him. You know.
No, there are not.
I mean, if Robert Morris's punter tried out for the Steelers, maybe he'd have a shot.
Remember that one play he made last year on the fake punt against the Cardinals? Where like the Cardinals had like 11 dudes in the box, and he's like, I think this is a good time to fake punt, and he just like ran into a dude. It's like, what are you doing? And we had to leave. It was like on our 20-yard line. I was so
Yeah.
mad. Like, Barry. Okay. Okay. So overall, what is your grade for the Pittsburgh Steelers draft?
Hmm. Um, I really like the Claypool pick, but I think, and the Dotson pick, but I think everything else was kind of a bit of a stretch, particularly Highsmith and McFarland. Uh, I probably give this probably round a B minus, probably.
Yeah.
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 I really like the Claypool pick. I really think he really has the potential to be another player like, I won't go to Calvin Johnson level yet, but someone like Juju, a solid number 2 to complement a great receiver. Uh, but as for our other top 3 picks, I'm not really feeling it. Obviously, Dotson kind of counterbalances it, but I think my overall's got to be probably around B minus. Maybe that's even stretching it. Maybe C plus.
Yeah, I was in the C plus B minus range. I'm with you. I think if we exclude Minka, I think it's a C plus. If you want to say Minka was a first round draft pick, then I think you can make an argument for a B minus B. Because that's a killer first round draft pick. Then we killed the second round, the third and fourth were questionable, very very questionable. Then Kevin Dotson, like you said, kind of brought it back. Like I said, not mad at the sixth round. I think he could help special teams now in the seventh round.
It's just meh.
And yeah, right. Okay, so let's go to the Cincinnati Bengals.
Mm,
I'll just read the draft picks and then we'll just give some overall thoughts.
sounds good.
So their first draft pick, they went with obviously Joe Burrow, quarterback from Louisiana State. Their second round draft pick, they had 2 second rounds. No, they had 1 second round, my bad. They had 1 second round, they went with wide receiver from Clemson, T. Higgins. Third round, they went with Logan Wilson, linebacker from Wyoming. Fourth round, they went with Akeem Davis Gauther, linebacker from Appalachian State. Fifth round, they went with Khalid Kareem, edge rusher from Notre Dame. With their sixth round pick, they went with Hakeem Adeniji, I think his name is,
I
offensive
think
lineman.
it's so. I
Good.
looked up the Bengals draft picks on the website. I do believe it's pronounced Adeniji.
Adeniji, okay. And then seventh round, they went with Marcus Bailey, linebacker from Purdue. They did not trade any of their picks away, and they did not require any picks. So those are just they had
Yeah.
7
So
picks, and they went
they
with
had the
some.
first pick of every round, obviously.
Okay, so give me your thoughts, Ryan. What you happy with what they did? You disappointed with what they did? As a Steeler fan, are you now with fear because they're Joe Burrow and they're gonna eat us alive?
Well, uh, I do certainly think they won't be the doormat anymore. We have to make sure we don't take the Bengal games for granted. The way we took the first Browns game for granted last year. Um, Obviously, no brainer, number 1 overall pick, Joe Burrow. Um, and I do like the T. Higgins pick. It gives the Bengals a weapon other than Tyler Boyd, because we've seen what Joe Burrow can do. We watched, you and I, Chris, watch the SEC championship game together, and we saw Joe Burrow and the legendary LSU offense absolutely torch the Georgia Bulldogs.
Indeed. I mean,
Yeah, and then that same Georgia team played their backups and crushed Baylor.
yes. Yes, we do.
And yeah. And but with Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, you have to wonder what Joe Burrow can do with a receiving core that isn't exactly in the same relative skill level and relative profile as in terms of compared to the rest of the league as his LSU receivers compared with the rest of the SEC and the rest of FBS football. So I think the question really is how influential is Joe Burrow in the offensive machine?
I think if we're going to talk about Joe Burrow first, right? This is obviously the first overall pick. He deserves time on any sports podcast that talks about football, at least. I think my main issue with him, I got two issues. One, okay, first issue is LSU built their offense around him and what he does well. Okay. Now, one would assume Cincinnati would do the same thing, but keep in mind this is the Cincinnati Bengals. They don't tend to do the things that are logical. Baltimore, who we'll get to later, they drafted Lamar Jackson, and then they built a team around Lamar Jackson. And they did fantastic last year, right? Do we trust Cincinnati to build an offense around Joe Burrow?
That's true. We saw what Cleveland tried to do with Baker Mayfield, Freddie Kitchens.
Mm-hmm.
We saw the dumpster fire that ended up. Well, I wouldn't say dumpster fire.
No, it was a dumpster fire. It was a dumpster fire. Yeah.
Maybe we're giving the Browns too much credit.
Yeah, oh yeah. So that's number one. Will Cincinnati be smart enough to actually build an offense around Joe Burrow? Is issue number one. And issue number two is what I agree with you is it's LSU. That entire receiving core is either in the NFL right now because they got drafted with him, or they're getting drafted next year because they weren't eligible this year. You know what I'm saying? So, because think, Clyde Edwards-Helaire went in the first round of Kansas City. Justin Jefferson went in the first round of Minnesota. I think there was another LSU wide receiver that went in the second round. They have a third one that's still in LSU because he wasn't eligible, who's slated to be a first rounder. I forget his name, and I apologize. If you know it, you can correct me in the comment section or send us an email or something. Yeah. But I don't know because yes, he has AJ Green, but AJ Green's been hurt the past couple seasons, and
he's another injury-prone wideout.
Right, Tyler Boyd's good, and don't get me wrong, he's not awful. He's a proven NFL receiver. T. Higgins, he has great potential. Don't get me wrong. He's second rounder, Clemson wide receiver. He's tall, he's fast. He's what you want your NFL receiver to be, but he's still gonna need to grow, right? Because he's gonna have a rookie QB thrown to him because they got rid of Dalton. So he's gonna have a rookie QB thrown to him, who knows what their offense is gonna be because of the schemes, and then both of them trying to learn an NFL scheme. So I think they hit their first two draft picks because if I was a Bengals fan, I'd be happy with both of them. I would agree. I don't think they'll be the doormat, but I think they're going to have a lot of room to grow and a lot of growing. And then they're going to hope they actually once in their lives have a competent coaching staff.
Yes. This year, maybe even next year, I probably see them competing with the Browns for third place.
Mm-hmm. And I think.
Really, sorry, you go.
I think with the rest of their picks, I think they hit some needs, and I think I'd give their draft an A-. I think they did good. They did well.
Definitely. The first two picks alone are worthy of A+ grades. I mean, they were mostly no-brainers, but you got to give credit where credit is due. They got the weapons they needed, And the rest of the draft, you're right, was general covering team needs. Nothing that really sticks out. I'd have to agree with that A minus.
I would agree with that. Okay, so now we'll move on to the Cleveland Browns. They had the 10th overall pick, and they picked Jedrick Willis. He's an offensive lineman. Then they picked Grant Delpit, safety from LSU. Jordan Elliott, defensive tackle from Missouri. Jacob Phillips, linebacker from LSU in the 3rd round as well. They had Harrison Bryant, tight end from Florida Atlantic in the 4th. Nick Harris, who is a center from Washington in the 5th. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones, wide receiver from the University of Michigan in the 6th. Now, here's my thoughts, right? Jedrick Willis, great pick. They needed offensive lineman. Baker Mayfield got his butt kicked 16 games, right? Awful. They needed to address the offensive line, and they did it twice. They did it with him, and then they did it with Nick Harris from Washington. So that's fine. Grant Delpit was my personal favorite safety coming out this year. Played at LSU. He's a ball hawk. He's gonna pick you off. He's gonna hit you hard. Like I said, I think he was better than Xavier McKinney in my opinion. This was like your top 2 safeties. I like Delpit a little bit better than McKinney. I thought he had more ball sense than McKinney did. So could stop the run. I think. And here's the thing with Cleveland, right? Willis, fantastic pick, great offensive lineman. They needed it. Grant Delpit, their back end sucked. Grant Delpit, like I said, probably the best safety in my opinion, arguably the best safety in this year's draft. Great pick. I got another offensive lineman, great pick. They got some D-line help, a linebacker. They addressed some needs. And again, we're with this again with Cleveland. Cleveland, great draft. But on paper, they have a great team. They have Mayfield. They may have an offensive line now. They're going to get Myles Garrett back, who is Defensive Player of the Year. They have Odell. They have Jarvis. They have Nick Chubb. They have Kareem Hunt. They have these weapons, but yet they suck. Right? So it's one of the same on paper. The Browns should be competing for the division title with us and the Ravens. And then, like I said, we'll get to the Ravens later. I think they killed their draft as well. So I think they did well on their draft. I'll give them a B plus, A minus. I love the Delpit pick. But again, they have a great team on paper. I mean, they have Ivy League guys running the team and running the draft. But again, it's Cleveland. It's Cleveland. I'll say it again. It's Cleveland. Cleveland's going to have to prove it before we can take him seriously. Like, Baker Mayfield had more commercials last year than the Browns did wins. Okay? That's reality. Mayfield was very immature last year. I mean, for crying out loud, they got a guy nearly kicked out the league because he took his helmet out and beat a dude with it. That's who Cleveland is. And they just have to prove it by winning football games than having good drafts or a good team on paper.
Yep, I think you really summed it up there, Chris. I really, really like their draft. On paper, they did everything right. But do you have confidence in this new coaching staff to capitalize? Because they've showed time and time again that despite having what many thought as the best team in the league, they have let the dog pound down pretty much every year since 2003.
Exactly. And we had a mutual friend. I won't mention his name because he may be listening to our podcast. I don't know. And he knows who he is. He picked the Browns last year to go 13-3. 13-3. They went 7-9, I think, maybe 6-10. It's one of the two. And it's like, and his thing was, they're great on paper. They have all these weapons. Baker Mayfield's going to take that step. They have a running game. they have, these weapons. They should be 13-3. There's no reason they shouldn't be. But yet again, they couldn't produce. And I don't know if that's an organizational issue. I don't know if that's a coaching issue. They got rid of the coach. I think they got rid of the GM as well. Is that a coaching issue? Is that just like it's hard for me to pinpoint why Cleveland consistently has these great teams on paper, or at least in the past couple of years, they've been a lot better than what they once were. But yet they still can't seem to put it together. Like I said, I don't know if it's coaching, environment, or like some organizational issue from the top down. Like, I'm not a Cleveland Browns fan. I don't know. It's just something interesting to think about.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting thought. In my head, I'm just comparing it. I know there's a lot of baseball examples where you listed having the best organization on paper and not coming through. The Cubs from the late 2000s come to mind to me, and all the money they spent and the talent they had, as well as the Dodgers, pretty much ever since 1988. They have been spending money and getting the best players out the wazoo, and yet they have not. I mean, they made the World Series in 17 and 18, but they haven't been able to push it over the top. And I'm really feeling this kind of vibe from the Browns, except it's even worse because while those teams were still able to make the playoffs and find some form of success, the Cleveland Browns have yet to make the postseason since I believe it was 2002 or 3.
It was the year my sister was born. Because they haven't made the playoffs since she's been alive. My sister was born in 2003.
So it was 2003. And remember, They almost beat the Steelers. The Steelers had to pull off quite the incredible comeback just to beat the Browns that year.
Yes, I do recall that.
I mean, I know I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and feeling bad for the Browns isn't exactly that fit the narrative here, but sometimes I really do feel bad for the Browns and their fans. They've had to suffer through so much. Their team moved and they had no football for like 3 years. And then they got this expansion team. It really is unfortunate what those fans had to go through. And then when you look at a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have pretty much made the playoffs for a decent majority and won 2 Super Bowls since the Browns last made the playoffs.
Yes. And don't forget the Ravens. The Ravens won 2 Super Bowls
since
they moved from Cleveland.
The team that had just been taken from them was pretty much successful right after they left.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the last team in the North, who I think personally had the best draft, I think they killed this. Was the much hated Baltimore Ravens. Their first round pick, they drafted Patrick Queen, inside linebacker from Louisiana State. Then they went with They went with J.K. Dobbins.
Yep.
Because of course, since we couldn't get them, the only possible team he could have gone to was Baltimore. And then they got Justin Matabuke, defensive tackle from Texas A&M. Devin Duvernay, wide receiver from Texas in the 3rd round. Malik Harrison, linebacker, Ohio State, 3rd round. Tyree Phillips, guard from Mississippi State, 3rd round. They had 4 third-round picks. Then they went Ben Bredesen, guard, Michigan, 4th round. Broderick Washington, defensive line, Texas Tech in the 5th round. James Prosh, wide receiver, SMU, 6th round. And Geno Stone, safety, Iowa, 7th round. Again, it's so frustrating from a Steeler fan because Patrick Queen and J.K. Dobbins are going to torture us for years to come. That's just reality. I mean, the Ravens are known for their not even inside linebackers, but linebackers. You think of Mosley, you think of Suggs, you think of Ray Lewis. You just name the linebackers that the Ravens have had the past decade, 2 decades. And they get another one. He's fast. They said he might be the fastest linebacker in the league. I mean, in the draft this season. He can tackle. He played on the LSU championship team. Then you got J.K. Dobbins, who we touched upon earlier, is an elite running back prospect, right? Top tier. And of course, how do the Ravens beat you? They beat you by running the football, so they get like one of the best running back prospects, because of course. So not only will Ingram torture us, Lamar can torture us. Now we got J.K. Dobbins who can torture us. And then they got defensive line help was what they needed because they lost a couple. They got Duvernay, who's 6'4", 6'5". He's a huge wide receiver. He can really get the ball in the air. Not the best route runner, but it's really good at the 50-50 balls, which is really Lamar's all you need to throw because no one else plays double coverage against them. And then they get another linebacker from Ohio State. And Ohio State produces linebackers like no other. And they get him. So they got 2 flipping linebackers now. Both are high draft because you think your first 3 rounds are where you get a lot of your talent. So you spend a first on a linebacker. You spend a third on a linebacker. Both extremely talented. You have your running back now with J.K. Dobbins. You got 2 offensive linemen to help protect the running game. And you get another wide receiver for Lamar to throw to. And then you just get a safety because why not? I mean, they destroyed their draft. Probably had one of the best drafts in the league. And of course, they already won the division. And they get the best draft. I mean, as a Steelers fan, this would make you sick how well the Ravens did. Because this is not good. It's not good.
No, I am thoroughly intimidated by the Ravens, their present and their future. J.K. Dobbins just scares me.
Right?
I mean, you have Lamar, Ingram, and now Dobbins. I mean, it's so weird because his receiving core, like, he doesn't even need a good receiving core because he only throws the ball 17 times a game.
Yeah, but it's so efficient because you have Marquise Hollywood Brown.
Exactly.
You have that Mark Andrews, who's a great tight end out of Oklahoma. You add another 6'5" wide receiver. I mean, and there's talk of Antonio Brown going to Baltimore now.
Oh, joy. Just what we need.
It's so frustrating. They're so good.
I don't even know at this point if a full strength Steelers team, which is unlikely given the injuries and whatnot, I don't even know if nobody got hurt for any game. I don't know if that's enough to beat this Ravens team. On certainly on their best day, they're unstoppable. There's not a team that they should fear. There's not a team that the Baltimore Ravens should fear. With an offense like this, plus those linebackers, they took two top
two top
linebackers
tier linebackers. Yeah.
in the first 3 rounds, so their defense could be catching up to our defense, which is the one claim to fame that we had from a season ago. Yeah. This is not looking good. I'd probably have to give this an A, maybe even an A+.
I'm thinking A+. I think they did everything they were supposed to do. They got a ton of talent. They addressed all their needs. They got J.K. Dobbins because why the hell not? So frustrating.
And this goes back to, you were saying it earlier, even though I do really like Chris Claypool, man, when you look at J.K. Dobbins and you look at who he went to, you really do have to wonder why we didn't take him when the opportunity had arisen.
Right. It's bad enough you don't take him, first of all. And then you do what you did in the 4th round, and we went on a rant about that. But then it's even worse when he goes to the one team the only team in the league I'd be upset if you went to.
Even the
And that's
Patriots
the
could have
thing.
drafted him, and I wouldn't be
Right.
mad.
Because especially, we'll kind of segue into, the backup quarterback situation, where we know quarterback, if Ben goes down, is a huge issue. Why not get an elite running back to help the run game and help these young QBs out? This is frustrating. Okay, so we're here on our last conversation for this episode. The backup quarterback, which is the most controversial issue in Steelers football at the moment. We have no backup quarterback. Oh, false. We have two. We have Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. Now, you show me a Steeler fan who is confident when Ben, because we all know Ben's going to get hurt. If you've been a Steeler fan for any length of time, we know Steelers football season does not start until Big Ben gets hurt. Right? Because that's when the real fun begins. So we know he's going to get hurt sometime. And nothing against Mason Rudolph or Duck Hodges. I'm feeling a rant coming on. I'm not even going to lie.
It's all right. It's all right. That's what this podcast is.
Because here's where I'm frustrated. Jameis Winston, I'm about to completely switch points, I'm sorry. Jameis Winston signed with the New Orleans Saints for $1.2 million. Okay? $1.2 million for a year. Drew Brees is almost never hurt. He was hurt one time last year. I don't recall any other time he's been on the extended disabled list or injury list. Right? And he goes down to New Orleans where he knows he's probably not going to go get any game time. The Pittsburgh Steelers spent $1.4 million on a fullback. On a fullback. Let me say that again in case the listeners haven't figured it out. Jameis Winston, a top 5 pick, maybe number 1 overall. I forget. I'm sorry.
No, I don't think he was number 1.
Signed a $1.2 million deal with the Saints, and the Steelers signed a fullback for $1.4. You're telling me you could not have thrown $1.4 million at Jameis Winston to be a backup when he knows Ben's going to get hurt? But no, you get a fullback instead, because why not? Because that's why we lost last season. That's why we didn't make the playoffs, Ryan. It's not because we didn't have a quarterback. It's because we didn't have a fullback.
Oh, I knew there was some other reason.
And then you go with 2 quarterbacks who did not impress last season whatsoever. You can't tell me because Mason Rudolph had one good game against a team that now he can be a consistent backup. Not when you had Jameis Winston. Not when you... Dude, I'd flip and take Andy Dalton at this point.
Anybody.
You know what I'm saying? Anybody. It seems like Cam Newton doesn't want to be a backup. He wants to be a starter. Whatever. Let him be unemployed. I don't really care. But you had Andy Dalton, who knows the AFC North, who's played in the AFC North. Why not? That $7 million Dallas paid? Come on. And then Jameis was $1.2 million. 1.2. And we couldn't pay it because we spent 1.4 on a flipping fullback. So frustrating. It is so frustrating. When Ben gets hurt, I don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah. The problem is we really kind of backed up into a corner because there weren't really many good draft options with the picks we had. We would have had to have probably utilized the trade to get a backup quarterback option. But as we said before, you don't want to use a first-round pick on a backup QB. Contrary to what Green Bay was trying to do.
Right. And especially with a team that's trying to win now. Right? We're trying to win now. A backup quarterback would not be suited. We needed a wide receiver, running back, which ultimately is what we did. So I'm not mad at that. We need to do something in free agents. Even Marcus Mariota. flipping at Marcus Mariota. But no, Oakland got him.
Yep.
We got
Las Vegas.
Yeah, my bad. Las Vegas. I'm sorry, folks. Yeah, so that's frustrating. It's a train wreck. It's legitimately, would you rather freeze to death or burn to death? Pick one. Would you rather have Mason Rudolph or Duck Hodges? Pick one.
But here's a question that, I just thought up. It's been on a lot of people's minds all over the league. How desperate are you to get a backup quarterback? Because there is a quarterback on the market who is willing to be a backup, who is a free agent, has been for some time, but obviously he would probably be one of the most controversial players to ever put on a Steelers uniform. How desperate do you think the Steelers would be if they were to pick up Colin Kaepernick?
See, but I don't think he wants to play football though. I think he wants to be a martyr.
Very true. There could be a 5-hour episode on that.
There could be. There really, really could be.
But the question is I mean, how desperate are the Steelers to get someone? Because we've seen what Mason and Duck can do. It's not good.
Mm-mm.
And obviously, I don't like Colin Kaepernick either. For on the field reasons.
Right.
He fell apart in San Francisco. Yes, he did have that one season where he led them to the Super Bowl. But other than that,
Yeah, I'm aware, bro. Because I'm with you. There's nothing I saw from Mason Rudolph or Duck Hodges that makes me confident in anything if Ben goes down. I heard, I think it was Bruce Gronkowski, who was an ex-NFL quarterback. He's like, I think Mason Rudolph could be a confident backup for a game or two. I mean, maybe, but I would just feel more confident with, like, anyone else.
Yeah.
Like, James, like, I keep going back to Jameis cost $1.2 million. You're telling me you couldn't spend $1.2 million?
How much did the Raiders spend on Mariota?
Let me look. Time to go to Google. I don't know. I am on Google now. Yeah, not going there. Oh, that's not right. Marcus Mariota. His contract. Where is his contract? Why can't I find his contract? Contract. Here we go. The Raiders signed him to a 2-year deal, $17.6 million deal.
Whoa.
That's
I was not expecting him. Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah, I think Jameis Winston was our option. Unfortunately, the Saints snatched him up.
Agreed. But
go
ahead.
The problem that I think the reason why the Steelers weren't so keen on him or other backup quarterbacks is because I think their constant pursuit is they want to look for the quarterback of the future in the long term. Because Jameis Winston is 26. In the NFL, 30 is considered old. And yes, Ben Roethlisberger only has, 2 years, maybe even a year left. And I think the Steelers have really been searching for a long-term quarterback that can play for as long as Ben has. This is his 17th season coming up. I think that's why we were so confident on Mason Rudolph, because of the possibility of him being another one of those long-lasting quarterbacks like Ben has been.
See, but here's my thing. Here's my issue. Is that... Okay, but what are you trying to do? Are you trying to win now? Or are you trying to build for the future? Right? Because you get Jameis, you get a capable backup that helps you win now.
I
Right?
agree with yeah.
But it doesn't mean you can spend next year's first round draft pick on a quarterback if you want to, or 2 years, right? Because in theory, what you could do, and what you could have done, obviously Steelers didn't want to, is let's say you have been to 2 to 3 more years. If you sign Jameis to like a 2 or 3 year contract, Ben retires, you give Jameis another 2 to 3 year deal, assuming he wants, assuming you pay him quarterback money, to be the starter of the Steelers, draft a young QB, and then you get 2 to 3 years to develop him. Then you can kick Jameis to the side, and then you have your long-term quarterback, hopefully. Because right now you don't have anything. You don't have a quarterback that can really help now to be a backup now, and I don't think Mason, unless he takes a gigantic leap from year 2 to year 3, and throw Duck Hodges in there from year 1 to year 2, unless one of them takes a major jump, I don't see either one of them being the future starter for a long-term period. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I certainly agree with you, but the question is, does Kevin Colbert also agree with you?
Obviously
Does
not.
exactly. I'm saying Kevin Colbert, uh, who does share our alma mater, but that does not mean that he has a wise opinion on this backup quarterback situation. He his mindset is what I was saying is he does not want a short-term backup. If he wants a backup, he wants that backup to be the eventual next Ben Roethlisberger. He wants an Aaron Rodgers situation to develop where he finds that quarterback of the future to develop under the tutelage of a future Hall of Famer, the way Aaron Rodgers did with Brett Favre for 1 to 2 to 3 years. And then when that future Hall of Famer gets old and retires, the next guy is ready to step up and fill his shoes. Unfortunately, he didn't find that with Mason Rudolph, and now we're left in a corner. And I agree with you. We should have gotten a guy like Jameis Winston to fill the short-term gap if we want to win now,
Mm-hmm.
and then focus perhaps a first-round pick in the next year or the next 2 years on getting that future quarterback. But clearly, management and us don't see eye to eye in that issue.
See, but even if that's the plan, right? Look at what Green Bay did. So Rodgers was a first-round pick. Jordan Love, who apparently they're trying to do this again. Jordan Love is a first-round pick. The Steelers aren't giving first-round picks. We're throwing 4th round to Josh Dobbs, 3rd round to Mason Rudolph. You know what I'm saying? Undrafted free agency Duck Hodges. You're not spending the high-quality draft picks to draft a quality backup. You're spending, again, it's the same issue with the running back. You're spending mid-round draft picks on a skilled position that realistically, aside from Tom Brady, you find in the first 2 rounds, and you're trying to get like another Dak Prescott, more or less. You're trying to hit on a mid-round quarterback when the really good ones are going to go in the 1st and 2nd round. And it's the same game they're doing with the running backs, and it's so frustrating because you don't have an elite one. You just have a bunch of bang average ones, and even maybe below average with the way those two played last season.
Yep. All nothing better to be said after that.
Amen. So we thank you for listening to the Pittsburgh Sports Cast, our first episode. We hope we didn't fail too bad. Like I said, you can find us on YouTube at Pittsburgh Sports Cast, or anywhere else where you get podcasts at Spotify, Apple, Google Play. We're on all those platforms, Anchor even. So that's all the only other thing I want to add is, so we do have, as stated previously, we do have at least another 2 episodes lined up for this week. Then obviously, since we are in quarantine, or at the time of this we are in quarantine, sports news is kind of questionable right now, or non-existent.
Slow or yes, non-existent.
So probably uploading will probably slow down just because we won't have a whole bunch to talk about. There are some rumors we're hearing of when some of the sports may be coming back. When assuming sports do come back in 2020, we're probably going to try to keep a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule, because right now it looks like all 3 sports, or all 3 Pittsburgh sports, are going to come back at once. Whether that be like Steelers training camp and the start of the Pirate season, and then hopefully the Penguins will finish in some playoffs. So it looks like we will have a lot to talk about, maybe into June, into July. So hang with us. We will have more to talk about when sports get underway again. But until now, we have two episodes, and we'll probably come up with some other stuff to talk about. If you want to hear our Korean baseball commentary, I'm sure we can learn it. You want to hear us talk about German soccer? I'm sure we could learn it. If you really want to love listening to us, and really want to hear us rant about something, I'm sure we could.
Yeah, you viewers at home or wherever you are, hopefully you're all at home. Don't hesitate to drop us a line. We have an email. Our email is pittsburghsportspodcast@gmail.com. If you would like any questions, you can also comment down below on our YouTube channel, for those of you watching this video on YouTube. And you can also interact with us. We are currently working on starting our various social media platforms. Our Twitter is currently up and running, and that is at PGH Sportscast. And we're planning on getting a Facebook and Instagram as well. So, with that, for my co-host Chris, my name is Ryan. You got anything else you want to say before we go off the air, Chris?
Thanks for listening / watching. Hope we entertained you for however long this is. I don't know how long this is going to be, but I hope we entertained you. I hope we gave you some fun sports talk while there are no sports aside from Korean baseball. And we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Stay home, everybody. Stay safe. Wash your hands, the usual. And Lord willing, we will see you soon.
Yes.